Hello, good morning. So, today I am going to explore with you something that I've been exploring all along, and sometimes I fear that you might think I'm too repetitive. On the other hand, what I'm saying is so important, I think, and that it doesn't matter if we hear the same thing um, in different ways. So, of course, throughout my career, I have focused on things like, hi Ramanand Dikshit, I have focused on things like synchronicity, spontaneous fulfillment of desire, what is called the state of grace, what other people call God being on my side, uh, on and on, the world of synchronicity. And all these explorations have been based on the very fundamental premise that the physical world is not physical, that the material world is not material, that the essential stuff of the universe is non-stuff. And not only is it non-stuff, it is conceptualizing, thinking, imagining, creative non-stuff. It is not some kind of substance, physical or even subtle. This non-stuff is borderless, infinite, without cause, timeless, boundless, and constantly self-interacting with itself to create all modes of experience. And these modes of experience, as human beings, we are calling physical matter. So let's examine this, okay? You're looking at me right now. You're looking at what we call the bookshelf behind me, looking at this little notebook that I'm holding in my hand. You can look at my hand, look at my glasses. Now look at your own hand. Look at your own body. Look at all the objects in the room where you're sitting. And from the current scientific model perspective, your eyes are only interacting with photons, invisible photons. Okay? So when you look at me or your own body or anything else, your eyes are only interacting with photons. Photons are part of the electromagnetic field that pervades all of space and time in the whole universe. Now, the eyes that you are using to interact with these photons, electromagnetic fields, are ultimately also made of those electromagnetic fields, according to our current scientific model. So, your eyes, of course, your ears, your skin, your taste receptors, your olfactory receptors, your sensory apparatus, everything that you're experiencing right now is actually the interaction of electromagnetic fields with electromagnetic fields, the self-interaction of electromagnetic fields that actually creates the experience of sound, of sensation, of images, of forms, of colors, of fragrances, of textures, of shapes, of fragrances, and also not only textures but also that which we call flavors. So these are all the flavors of experience. And the flavors of experience are being generated right now as you're listening to me and watching me, and also experiencing your own body and experiencing your own mind. So where is all this happening? Okay, in fact, when you touch something, okay, when you touch something, then all that is happening to produce that sensation is electrons are bumping into electrons, and they don't even touch each other. They create a force field, and that resistance is experienced as sensation. So actually, technically speaking, right now you're hovering over the chair that you're sitting on, literally hovering, okay, just by a minute fraction, because the electrons that make up your buttocks and the electrons that make up the chair are basically creating this resistance that is interpreted as sensation. You never touch anything. Sensation is a result of electromagnetic charges repelling each other. And by the way, that is all of experience, not just visual experience, but every experience that we can name. The experience of sound, taste, smell, it's just charges interacting with charges, either repelling them or attracting them. And even as that is happening, you're creating experience. In reality, there are no objects. In reality, there is even no such thing as a physical hand or a physical body or physical eyes. Okay, they are, according to current science, force fields and particles and probability waves in mathematical space that are all entangled, and in their entanglement they create the experience of perception, which we interpret as the physical world. And that perception is very misleading, very misleading. So, ordinary perception tells us that the ground we're standing on is stationary, but we know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. Our regular perception tells us the earth is flat, but we know it's not, it's a globe. And our regular perception says that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, all the while we know that it's rotating on its own axis. Our regular perception tells us that things are solid, that they have shape and texture and mass, and they occupy space, and that you as a physical body mind are also an object in that theater of space-time and causality, along with other objects. And depending on where you observe from, or how you observe, or the questions you ask when you observe, then you get a certain perceptual experience. So, if you go into space, then you can actually see the earth as a globe. You can see that it is a perceptual experience of colors, shapes, and forms that we call the earth as human beings. Okay? And so in every moment, in every perception and the interpretation of every perception, you and I are creating our perceptual snapshots strung together on the thread of being or consciousness. And in every moment, we're actually constructing the experience of mind, body, universe, all unified in this single interaction, which we call self-interaction. Self-interaction produces the illusion of me and other. It produces the illusion of biological organism and environment. It produces the illusion of physical objects. And all this is very useful to navigate human experience, to walk around New York City, look at the Empire State Building, at night look at the sky and the Milky Way galaxy, and realize that I, as pure being, am conceiving, constructing, governing, and becoming the experience of existence as this form and phenomena, which is a repeated construction every time I perceive and conceive. But I, who am perceiving and conceiving, am totally invisible and formless and present in every experience as the formless modifying myself into form and phenomena. So on the one hand, the superstition of matter is convenient. It helps me navigate everyday reality, drive a car, take a bus, take a train, take a plane, meet you somewhere at the intersection of Broadway and whatever street, all the while knowing that these are ideas that are constructed, conceived, governed, and come into existence as experience. And that experience is existence knowing itself as this experience right now. So right now, existence is knowing itself as the experience visually of this thing, image that you're experiencing, not in your eyes, not in your brain, but in your consciousness. No physical object can experience anything if it is a physical object, but it's not. Every physical object is a conglomeration, a collection, a confederation of woven, inextricably entangled snapshots of perception and cognition. And those in turn are activities of the self that create the experience of me and other. Yes, Ramanand, thank you for summarizing consciousness, which is the I principle, the I am, consciousness, I am, borderless, unfettered, infinite, non-material, formless, spaceless, timeless, knowing itself as innumerable observers, innumerable modes of observation, both species and culture specific, and innumerable forms which are all actually modifications of itself. So Carmen asks, is death the same? Well, birth is the beginning of a perceptual program, a qualia program, and death is the end of that series of snapshots of qualia programs. So you are not the program, you're the programmer as well as the software that creates the program that appears on the screen of consciousness as the theater of space-time and causality. So what is the payoff? Why bother? Well, the payoff is, first of all, that you do not need to change your experience in the physical world. It's convenient, the fact that you don't see emptiness, but you see matter. It's also convenient that you experience the earth as stationary and not spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. It's convenient that you experience yourself as a body, even though it's empty space. It's totally empty space. If you could see the body as it is, or anything as it is, you'd see a huge emptiness with a few scattered dots and spots and some random electrical discharges. And even the random electrical discharges are frozen snapshots that are evanescent and disappear into the emptiness from which they came. So, in order to be a cosmic alchemist, you have to first know that you're constructing the world. And you're constructing the world by choosing your seeing, by choosing your hearing, by choosing your tasting, smelling, and sensing, and also by interpreting it into your current everyday perceptual reality of objects and organisms moving around in the theater of space-time and causality. Even movement, by the way, is an illusion. You say, I can move my hand and I can move my body, but I can't move the universe. No, sir. Every time you move your hand, you move your body, you speak, you move your vocal cords, you glance in one way, you glance in another, you pay attention to a certain sound and not to another certain sound. Every time you do that, you're constructing reality by your modes of knowing, choosing, and perceiving and interpreting that. Once you begin to know this, and then you know that some experiences are perceptually important in that they should be consistent, otherwise we'd go crazy. But there are other experiences, including the quality of life we want, the quality of our body, the quality of scenery we want to experience depends on the invisible seer. You are the invisible, formless seer that is present in every seeing and every scenery. The seeing and the scenery will shift depending on your choices and the exercise of your free will. But you, the seer, being timeless, eternal, infinite, and formless, will ever be the same, although evolving into new modes of knowing and experience, and therefore new modes of perceptual reality that we call the physical world and the physical body.